My name is Mary Louise Booth Webb. I am 97 years old. I grew up on a farm in Bryantown, Maryland. Bryantown is a historical town because John Wilkes Booth passed through there going down the Sakiah Swamp as he was getting away from after shooting Lincoln. Oh, I'm going to show you my book that I wrote about 16 years ago, Life on the Farm with Grandma and Grandpa, growing up on a farm in southern Maryland. On the front of this cover, and there you will see me, my bicycle that I purchased for $3 in 1938.
What year were you born?
I was born in 1924.
1924?
1924, October the 8th, 1924. On the front page, one of the pages looked like grandparents. And over here is an uncle working on the farm. And it was a 200-acre farm, believe it or not, right here in Bryantown.
200 acres.
200 acres. These are my two brothers, and I am the only survivor of my 5 siblings. Over here you will see, and this is in Bryantown, my 2 sons. This is my aunt, and the farm is still, there remains in the family. That is also off of Bryantown Road. I can't get my fingers for it. Okay, and this talks about life, fun on the farm. And did we have a lot of fun on the farm? We had to make our own toys, so that was fun. We used our imaginations. And here's my son, and believe it or not, this was in 1950 in Waldorf, Maryland, right on Old Washington Road. And the house is still there. It's a little house that we purchased for $9,000, and they renovated, so the house is still there.
$9,000 for a brick rambler.
No, not that the brick rambler, not the brick rambler, but the little house, because there's 2 houses.
Oh, the
there.
house right next to it. Yes.
And the brick rambler is now a nursery. There's a group of us. My aunt, my youngest uncle is there. And then I talk about the passing of my mother. We lived in a 1-room school in Fort Washington, off of Fort Washington Road. At the passing of my mother, we came back to a 10-room house and 200 acres. So you can imagine how exciting I was.
How many were there living in the 1-room schoolhouse?
Oh, there were 4 of us. My mom and dad and 4 children.
And 4 children. And how old were you when your mom passed?
I think it was about 7 or 9, I guess. And this is the house in which I was born, where my grandmother delivered me.
Your grandmother delivered you?
Yes, my grandmother was a midwife, and my grandmother again, she was a midwife, and she delivered many kids in the neighborhood. My grandfather's car, and I don't think I ever rode in it because my aunts and uncle rode into church. But we'd walk down the hill on this very farm that I'm sitting here now on, and caught a rode in the horse and buggy. So I'm happy to say that I rode in the horse and buggy, and I rode in the Jaguar.
And a Jaguar?
Yes.
Nice. Look at you.
This is the church.
I've never ridden in a Jaguar.
This is the church I was baptized in.
And this is St. Mary's Bryantown.
St. Mary's Bryantown, and I still go to that church. And there's, hope you can see, there's the killing of the hogs. My grandfather used to kill about 8, and of course we had to stay home from school. So to help with the preparing of the hog, the sausages, and all of that. And you see another picture of killing of the hogs, and my uncle is helping. And now, my grandsons, who are now in their 40s, 40s, and they are there. And I always had pets for my grandchildren and my children, so I have a rabbit. So, and now, I'm down on the Sakaya Sakaya Farms, and having a lot of fun, doing the things I used to do many, many years ago. So I only have 5 books left.
5 books left.
And don't intend to buy anymore.
So this is a very sought after book, and there's only 5 limited left to get your hands on.
Yes,
okay.
and I've sold 600. Over
600. That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So you were born on this farm by your grandmother.
Delivered by my grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
And the most exciting thing is the fact that I am back on the farm to spend the rest of my life.
And where did you go to school?
I went to school in St. Mary's, Bryantown, and I walked 3 miles up in the morning, done your chores, and after we got to be in the teenagers, we had to milk the cows and things before we walked to school.
And you walked from home up to the
St.
school, which is 3 miles one way.
And then many times when we were older, we had to get our own firewood and help the nuns to start the fire. And one of the great things I like about being taught by nuns, because they taught us how to share. And if we found a penny or something, we put it in the mite box, as they call it.
Was that in the church or was that in the convent?
That was in the school.
In the school?
In the school, yeah.
Okay.
And there were 2 separate schools, so the nuns walked over from the convent to our school. And I do have a picture of the school, and when people would say, "What's that?" and what house is that? And I said, "No, that's our school."
And you went to the historic colored school at St. Mary's, Bryantown,
yes,
correct?
Uh-huh.
And there's a memorial there at St. Mary's
St.
now.
Mary's, yeah.
Where, is that where the colored school actually stood?
Yes, that's
Okay.
right.
And then the school that's there right now, I know because I went to St. Mary's, Bryantown, was built in 1967. The new school, the brick one.
Oh.
So that was built in 1967, and that's considered the new school.
I think the old school, I think it's 1913.
It could have been.
1913, that's what I think.
Could have been even older than that. I'm not 100% sure because it was one of the original schools
Mm-hmm.
in Charles County.
Oh, yeah.
Because the nuns of Notre Dame were the ones who taught us.
Yes, that's what we had.
Yep. And the convent used to be full when I went there, and I'm sure it was full when you were there too.
Yes, yes.
Now there unfortunately aren't any nuns over there teaching anymore. So what was it like on a daily basis growing up on the farm here?
It was a lot of work and a lot of fun. We got up early. And it all depended on the seasons of the year, too. You did different things at different seasons.
Okay.
And I just loved the spring because everything was coming alive.
Everything was new.
Everything's new. Green, my favorite color, green. Yeah, and so each season you had different things to do. And during the fall, when we were harvesting everything, you had to put it away for cold, long winter.
Right.
You had to get the wood in, many things, pile it up on the porch for the winter. And that was the winter. We gathered the walnuts so that we would have walnuts to make the ice cream, because we had everything. And when it got cold, we would go down to the Sakaya swamp, get the ice. So we had ice cream, and we had black walnuts. We had black walnut ice cream.
And we still have walnut
So
trees here.
It was a lot of fun growing up on the farm. I would love to bring some of the seniors to this farm, ride them around on my golf cart, and just show them. Many of them would reminisce. Others would, they would be amazed at how far life has brought us.
That is interesting for your age group, how different life is right now compared to what life was like when you were born.
Yes, yes. So what I do now, and most fascinating, and one of the things I've thought of doing this virus is to compare the words. Now when I say, for instance, I might say, be talking to someone, I might say funeral parlor. But now it's the
Funeral home.
funeral home. And we say funeral parlor because you had no place to have the wake, would be in the parlor.
Right, of the house.
And the house, parlor at the house. So that was in the, now, years ago it was ice box, now it's refrigerator. And so it was the cellar, and now it's the basement. So it's fun to compare.
Right.
And especially with the younger generation, children around, I would say 12, 13, they're fascinated, but they're asking questions. And I really like to teach them. And when I was growing up, I finished high school and I wanted to go to college, but there was no money. So I'm still a teacher because every day I'm teaching somebody something. And not only, I also would like to learn from whoever I'm talking to. We teach each other. Nothing is any better than teaching each other and sharing and caring. And that's the end of my story.
Sharon and Karen, I do want to go back to something. You just mentioned college. You did go to New York, though, and became a nurse, correct?
Yes. I went to New York during the war. And I went especially to stay with my aunt, whose husband was in the service. And from there, I stayed with one aunt in Harlem. And then it was bad in Harlem at that time. So I went into New York. I went into Bronx, New York to live with my aunt and lived next door to a church. So we went to church every morning. And from then I decided, well, I want to go into service, but I didn't pass the test, so I went to nursing school. And the classes was for 1 year, but we had to take it in 9 months because of the war. So with that, and I can remember very clearly when the day that they announced that the war was over, we were standing on the Welfare Island Bridge in New York, and we danced.
And that was World War I? World War II.
Yeah.
Correct. I'm sorry. Yes, because that was my mistake. I should have known that. World War II. And you worked with the development of formulas for babies, correct?
Yes. But my first job was with the men that had been drinking all their life and had cirrhosis of the liver. Very exciting job. When we would finish our work, and the nurses the employees, some of them would go in the linen room and relax. Well, I would go and do the men's toenails and fingernails. I've always been a person that moved, and I'm still moving, hopefully.
You are the Energizer Bunny. Well, I appreciate you coming down this morning. We're going to do this every Monday morning for a while, and you're going to go over some of your memories and some of the tools of the trade that you used when you were growing up, and share those with everybody. But it's fascinating. It really is.
Thank you.
You're what I want to be when I grow up.
Yes, you
Mrs.
will.
Webb.
Okay.
But I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.